Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Guys, this is the next, uh, course content, and it is the introduction to atomic structure. Before we understand what is meant by these atoms and atomic structures, atom, nucleus, proton, neutron, electron, we need to dive deeply to know the history of all these things. So let's talk about the history. The first era or timeline for the atom or the atomic structure is Democritus 460 BC. Now, he was the Greek philosopher and he suggested that the world was made of only two things. Number one is the empty space, and number two is the atoms. So, atomus is actually a Greek word which means undivided. And now it is referred to atom because we are familiar with the word atom. We are not familiar with the word atomus. So actually atomus is the basic unit of matter in theory of Greek philosopher Democritus, right? So then we need to understand what was the main idea of Democritus. His ideas were that atoms are the smallest possible particle of matter, and there are different types of atoms for each material. Somehow it's the same definition which we use now to explain the elements, right? So next, 1804 timeline. Now this is the timeline where John Dalton presented his atomic theory. So according to him, all matter is made up of atoms. Okay, atoms of one element are all the same. For example, the atoms of gold are same. The atom of silver are the same, but the atoms of gold and silver are different from one another. Atoms cannot be broken down into smaller parts, same definitions, and compounds formed by combining atoms. So these are the main points of John Dalton's atomic theory, 1804. Now this Dalton's early atomic model, it was just like the billiard ball. He envisioned atoms as solid and hard spheres, okay? Solid and hard spheres. Like this is the billiard model, right? And like billiard pool balls, so he used and he presented it's like this. Okay, this was his. He envisioned like this. So he used wooden balls to model them. Discovered the electron. Now comes the timeline 1970. This is what the timeline when electron was discovered. J.J. Thomson was the first who actually observed and discovered this electron. He was the first scientist. He was the first scientist to show that atom was made of even smaller things. Now, atom is on the whole. Now, actually, he's predicting that atom, inside the atom, there are still some other smaller particles. Okay, so J.J. Thomson, timeline 1897, was the first who discovered electron. अच्छा, अब थॉमसन्स ने जो प्रेजेंट किया था उसको हम कहते हैं plum pudding atom model. And he envisioned that this is a spherical cloud. This entire is a spherical cloud, okay, of positive charges, ठीक है, and negative charges. अब negative charges को he called electron. Okay, positive charges and electrons. और electrons जो थे उसने ये नहीं कहा कि these are the negative, but he identified them as negative charges. Remember that whenever there is a positive pool, there must be negative pool also. Okay, this is the rule. Next, Eugen Goldstein in timeline आ जाता है 1815 to 1930. Using a cathode ray tube, he discovered canal rays, which are beams of positively charged particles. अच्छा, ये तो history है. This is the history. But today we now understand them as proton. Positive charge, positively charged particles को he identified, okay, by using the ray which is known as cathode ray tube. This was his apparatus, and he discovered canal rays which are beams of. अब उसने एक नई तरह की rays जो थी वो identify की और उसको उसने कहा कि these are made up of positively charged particles. So now he is credited with the discovery of protons in an atom. So positively charged. So if we go back to the previous slide, here the negative charge was identified, okay, and it was identified by Thomson's in year 1897. So then we move to this 1850 to 1930 में आप आ जाएं तो Eugen Goldstein was also working, and ultimately he discovered the proton. Then we come to Millikan's oil drop experiment determined. अच्छा, इसने अब जो experiment किया था वो ये किया था to confirm, because whenever you put something, when you discover something, then it is tested by all, from all directions. Repeatedly times the thing is tested, and ultimately in the end fundamental concept आ जाता है या theory आ जाता है या law हो जाता है, right? But it has to be critically examined. So अब ये जो Thomson ने, when Thomson envisioned that this is the pool and the electrons are present, so electron was actually discovered. Okay, electron भी discovered हो गया और Goldstein discovered the positive charge which is known as protons. Now Goldstein ने तो positive charge discovered किया, लेकिन जो आप थॉमसन्स थे उन्होंने इलेक्ट्रॉन नाम दिया. अब जरूरी था कि उसके it was very crucial to determine the charge of the electron. So Millikan's oil drop experiment was done and it determined the charge on an electron. Okay? He used Thomson's charge to mass ratio to calculate the mass of an electron. So theoretically, he calculated the charge of an electron. Next, Ernest Rutherford in 1913 discovered, अब जब आपका एटम डिस्कवर्ड है, एटम के 2 particles जो हैं वो डिस्कवर हो गए. Now this was the third success. Rutherford in 1930 discovered the nucleus of a gold atom with his gold foil experiment. He did different experiments, but ultimately he got success in discovering the nucleus of a gold atom. And when he did a lot of experiments on the nucleus of the gold atom, ultimately he discovered the nucleus. This is not in your course, but it's only for your information. This was the experiment. He used a radioactive source. Radioactive source, आपको पता है nuclear source होती है, right? उसमें से उसने अल्फा रेस को पास थ्रू किया, ठीक है. आगे उसने ये एक गोल्ड की फॉइल लगाई. अब उसके मुताबिक, as per the mindset of Rutherford, these alpha particles must cross this gold foil. Okay, तो ये उसके ज़हन में था. इसके साथ उसने एक्सपेरिमेंट किया कि बाकी जो अल्फा रेज हैं, ठीक है, जो अल्फा रेज हैं, दे कैन पास थ्रू द गोल्ड फॉइल. अगर रेडियो एक्टिव एलिमेंट से आप बम्बार्डमेंट कर रहे हैं अल्फा रेज को, तो क्या वो गोल्ड फॉइल को क्रॉस कर जाएंगे, पेनिट्रेट कर जाएंगे? यस. ये डिटेक्टर था इट किट. दिस वाज द डिटेक्टर. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंड एक्चुअली? J.J. Thomson's, using J.J. Thomson's प्लम पुडिंग मैं नहीं जा रही दीमी की बेटे की सालगिरह में, मैं खाला को फोन करूंगी, वो तुम दोनों को ले जाएगा, मेरा नहीं दिल कर रहा। ओ आई एम सॉरी गाइस, वो बीच में डिस्कशन हो गई, तो मैं इसको एडिट करने की कोशिश करूंगी. ओके, so using J.J. Thomson's plum pudding atomic model, Rutherford predicted the alpha particles would pass straight through the gold foil. That's not what happened. ये उसका जो मतलब था कि ये अल्फा पार्टिकल्स जो हैं ये प्लम मॉडल में से बगैर डिफेक्टेड किए हुए they can pass. So gold foil experiments के रिजल्ट क्या? What were the results? Most alpha particles go straight. Most alpha particles go straight through the gold foil. A few alpha particles are sharply deflected. Now here you can see this is passing, this is passing, this is passing. Again see, this is passing, right? Again this is passing, again this is passing. ठीक है, लेकिन these two were deflected. One deflected in this way and the other deflected in this way. अब आपने ये गौर करना है, ठीक है? मैं इसको आई एम गोइंग टू अरेज these things so that you can observe. अब आप let's observe. Okay, let's observe. When this ray was passing, it touched nothing. Okay, so जितनी भी रेस पास हुई थी उन्हें किसी को टच नहीं किया, right? And they passed easily. लेकिन two of the rays they got they strike this center blue part, और जब ब्लू पार्ट से वो टकराई तो डिफ्लेक्ट हो गई. This one is the second. Okay, so the rays which did not strike anything, they passed easily, but the two rays they strike the blue part and they deflected. क्या मतलब इससे पता चलता है? आपको पता है कि electron is negatively charged particle. It means that something very big is positively charged there. Okay, it was not the proton which was discovered, it was just something is big. Something big, heavy weight, heavy mass is present inside the atom and the charge is positive. क्योंकि जब मैं negative charge जो था वो strike किया तो positive होगा तो deflect होगा ना, right? So in this way the nucleus was discovered. Rutherford's conclusion: the atom is mostly empty space. There is a small denser center with a positive charge, and actually Rutherford discovered the nucleus in atoms. Next, Rutherford's contribution to the atomic theory. The atom is mostly empty space. The nucleus is a small dense core with a positive charge. Rutherford's atomic model is presented like this. Positive core is the nucleus and the negative around this electrons. Center is the positive and around the center is the negative. So this is all about your introduction with the history. Now we go to the structure. In the next session, we need to understand about the atoms and structure of atom. Thank you so much.